If you are in your 30s and still don't own a home, you might feel like you are behind in life, like everyone else has figured it out except you. But here is something most people don't realize. The average first time home buyer actually in today's market is roughly about 36-year old. So if you're in your 32s, 35, or even 40s, you are not late. In fact, you might be exactly on time. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the real roadmap to buying a home in your 30s. The myths about down payment, renting versus owning. Now, one mistake I see buyers make in their 30s is believing that their first home has to be their forever home. But that's usually not how real estate actually works. Your first home is typically a starter home, something that currently fits your lifestyle, fits your budget, and also allows you to build some equity out of it. So instead of asking, is this my dream house? The better question is, does this home help me to move forward financially? Because your first home will determine your forever home based on the equity you have. And real estate is often a stepping stone strategy. Make sure you understand within a starter home what is your needs versus wants, and make sure you do check your needs. Sit down as a family, as a couple, make sure you put down all the things on the paper and act accordingly. Now, let me show you a simple example. Let's say someone buys a home for $600,000. So the minimum down payment will be around $35,000 plus the closing cost. Now imagine they live there for 5 years, and about that period of time, the home appreciates about 4% every year, which is, I did this based on historical assumption. Make sure you put down the number that favors your market. And after 5 years, the home values become roughly $730,000. And the remaining mortgage or the balance will be roughly about $511,000. Now, even after the selling cost, the homeowner could walk away with roughly 170 to $180,000 in the equity. And that equity then can be used towards their next home. And this is why many buyers think about their first home as a wealth building step. Now let's talk about one of the biggest myth in the industry as of now. Still, a lot of people believe that you need 20% down to buy a house. And that's actually not true for primary residences in Canada. And here are some of the examples of the home value and the minimum down payment that you will need, of course, plus the closing cost along with that. And even with a $750,000 price tag, especially for first time home buyer, which is quite high, you need to come up with $50,000 down payment and the closing cost. So it's not $100,000, $200,000 or more like that. Now, another strategy many buyers use is putting the minimum down payment required instead of the 20% down payment. And I did made a video about it, or 5% versus 20% down payment. So make sure you check that out. And yes, I'm completely aware that when you pay or put down less than 20% down payment, you need to pay mortgage insurance. But it also does comes with some benefits. Sometimes insured mortgage actually get slightly lower interest rates, and it also allows buyers to keep some of their capital invested elsewhere. For example, instead of putting 20% or every dollar you have into the house, you might want to keep some money for some investments, emergency funds, renovations, and also for future opportunities. So the key is balance over here. And here is one thing that many people miss out is that for the second home, you don't need to come up with 20% down payment. You can still qualify with a minimum down payment if you are planning to buy your second home as a primary house. Now, let's talk about another big debate, renting versus buying. You have probably heard people say that renting is throwing money away, but that's not always the full story. Oftentimes, people compare renting a smaller apartment to buying a detached home, and those are not equivalent comparison. The better comparison is renting a condo versus owning a condo, renting a townhouse versus owning a townhouse. And another important factor is the time horizon. If you plan to stay somewhere for 4 to 5 years or longer, buying may make sense financially. But if you're planning to move in a year or two, renting might actually be the smart option as of right now. And here's the one thing: when people start to buy or looking for their primary home, they always bring the investing angle. Now, again, especially in the current market, renting will always wins. It does not make sense. But if you're someone who's looking for a long term horizon, buying a house will make sense in that scenario, because most of the time people do a direct comparison of extra money goes into buying a house versus renting, but you also get some of the advantages when you have a stable place, a place where you can call yourself home, and so much more. And if you're thinking about buying a house in Kitchener or Waterloo, I have made a guide over here, videos over here about top 5 neighborhoods in Kitchener and also. Now let's talk about some of the most common mistakes buyers make in their 30s. The very first one in this one is like not being financially ready. Buying a home isn't just about the mortgage payment. There are also closing costs, maintenance, unexpected repairs, and so much more goes into it. The second thing people don't consider is buying at their maximum pre approval level. Just because the bank approves you for a number does not mean that the number fits your lifestyle. So make sure you do the reverse engineering in that and what actually fits your lifestyle, buy accordingly. I often recommend buyers leave themselves financial breathing room in case something happens, interest rate goes up or down, and don't stop investing after you buy a house. And the third is skipping important steps like doing your proper due diligence, understanding the neighborhood, understanding the finance behind the house, and things like that. You also need to understand the ongoing cost when you buy a house, things like property taxes, utilities, insurance, which you will not be able to recoup, like property taxes and maintenance. When you are renting out, you don't have to worry about that. But when you already buy a house or bought a house, you need to start thinking about those kind of things as well. And finally, this is the big one: not planning an exit strategy. Now, I totally understand when you are a first time home buyer, not many people think about it. But when we work with buyers out there, we ask them certain questions which probe them to think about this kind of questions. Now, a smarter way to buy real estate is to think about 5 to 10 years ahead. Ask yourself, will this home still work if my life changes? Maybe a career change, family growth, working from homes, things like that. You can also talk about or discuss about building flexibility into the house. What I mean by that is, if something changes in your life, are you able to rent out certain portion of house or not? Now I totally understand when market goes up and down, people don't think about this or they don't have a clear picture about it. And in this case, you can reach out to your mortgage agent or a realtor who can help you with this kind of situations. I have had so many buyers in 2022 at the peak of the market, and now I am having calls with all of them to see what makes sense in their life, because the prices of what homes they have bought at that point of time, right now it's very low compared to what is happening in the market and based on what the price they have paid. Now, here are a few practical questions buyers should think about, even if they don't apply to you right now. Things like, how good are the schools in the area? If you're not planning any family or anything like that, but it's very essential you think about this kind of questions. It will not only help you to get a good house in a good neighborhood, but also when you're planning to sell in future, the resale demand will be there. Think about what your daily commute will look like. I have buyers so often they are happy to go 40 to 50 minutes away from their job location, but just make sure you are aware about that, because the house itself looks really nice, and this will often happen when you move away from the city center. The prices reduces down and there's a spark in people's eyes, but make sure you think about your company. Also think about what are the future job prospect in that area. Let's say if you are someone who's moving to Krishna Waterloo, then there are good tech jobs, there are good white collar jobs, blue collar jobs, so you are covered in that. But if you're moving to a certain city or certain town where those kind of possibility does not exist, and you only buy a house because the house prices are lower down there, so you might be in a trouble. So this kind of questions you need to ask. If you're planning to buy a house this year or planning to buy next year and want more clarity about the process or what is affordable for you, what kind of homes available out in the market, feel free to book a one-on-one call with me where I am happy to go through the whole process in that. Now, one strategy many buyers in their 30s use is something called house hack. And this means buying a property where a part of the home generates some sort of an income. Now, example of this includes like buying a property with a legal basement apartment. Now, when you are planning to do house hacking, make sure you understand, are you buying something which already have a legal unit in it, or you are planning to add a legal unit in the future, which is very important as of right now, because most of the time when we do a buyer consultation, people think of adding a unit in the future, but many times it does not become feasible. So make sure you relay this conversation with your realtor, with your mortgage agent, so they know what kind of property fits your criteria. And when you're doing house hacking, there are multiple properties which could be a good fit for you, like a duplex, triplex, but also make sure like whether it's suitable for your lifestyle or not. Oftentimes, the best house hacking possible or house hacking property would be a duplex, up and down duplex, where the family will be living upstairs and you are renting out the basement. You also need to ask like whether you are planning to rent out the spare bedroom in your unit, or it will be a fully functional, a secondary separate unit. House hacking could be a fantastic way to generate wealth, but also aware about some of the privacy and taxes issue as well. Let's say if you're planning to do a house hacking and if you're getting $1,500 from the basement, now that's your legal income. You also need to show that on your paper. So after taxes and all that thing, does it make sense for you to go through that route, invading your privacy and things like that? And of course, you should be aware of about your local zoning bylaws, taxes, privacy consideration, and all things. But when done properly, house hacking can be a really powerful strategy if you are someone who's thinking along that lines. So, if you're in your 30s and thinking about buying a house, here are my final thoughts. The very first one is to don't rush the process. Understand what are the ins and outs of buying a house and act accordingly. The second is to focus on your goals and lifestyle, not what social media tells you and you around. And the third is to understand the numbers and the long term strategy behind it, because buying real estate is one of the biggest financial decision most of the time people take in their life. And when done thoughtfully, it can become a very powerful wealth building tool over time. Now, if you find this video helpful, let me know in the comments. Are you thinking about buying your first home or are you still deciding? And if you're in a Waterloo region or GTA and want to talk about your situation, feel free to reach. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next one. If you're planning to buy a house this year or planning to buy next year and want more clarity about the process or what is affordable for you, what kind of homes available out in the market, feel free to book a one-on-one call with me where I am happy to go through the whole process in that.